Good morning, friends. Welcome to the fourth weekly lecture of our program Samachar Manthan. And this week we will cover from date 21 June to 1st July. So, like the previous lectures, we'll start with mains lecture and then we'll start with mains issues and then we will go to prelims issues. So this week there are a lot of mains issues. First issue which we'll deal with is the jobless growth in India, because Prime Minister has said that there's no lack or there is no shortage of jobs. We have shortage of data. Enlightenment in business standard, there has been number of critique of that statement, because they say that there's not just shortage of data, there's also shortage of jobs. So my idea is to give you a basic on why do we have this jobless growth thing. I mean, it's not just that this government faced the problem. We have been facing this problem since 1991. I mean, it's not like that UP had a very good track record in creating jobs, or the NDA one had a very great job or it a great record, or the previous Narasimha Rao government had a great record. I mean, everybody struggled in creating jobs. And that has a lot to do with the kind of policies we went for after independence. So the idea of this thing is to give you a basic of how or why we are facing this problem, why no government has not been able to solve this problem. So the first reason why we have jobless growth problem is because of India's focus on higher education. See, let's understand this thing very clearly. In any country, it is the manufacturing sector which creates jobs. It is the manufacturing sector which creates mass scale jobs. The services cannot create a lot of jobs. That is one thing which you should keep in mind. Now, what we did wrong was that we focused on higher education and we neglected basic education. The Southeast Asian countries, the East Asian tigers, China, South Korea, Thailand, all of them, what they did was that they focused on basic education and they focused on skilling the population. So they provided everybody with basic skills, right? In India, on the other hand, we focused on creating IITs and IIMs and AIMS, but we neglected the basic education or the mass scale education. So what happened was that when there was liberalization, when liberalization was done, it integrated India's economy to the rest of the world. And because we had a decent amount of highly educated people, the service sector grew in India. And within that service sector, it is two sectors which our growth is led by two sectors. One is IT, second is telecom, and third is financial services. And why did these sectors got a boom of 91? Because we had a decent pool of highly educated engineers and doctors and scientists and all. That is why these sectors boomed after we adopted liberalization. But all of these three sectors are not job intensive sectors. They don't create jobs. Recent data shows that IT sector just creates 2 million jobs, which is nothing for a country like India. On the other hand, for a manufacturing jobs, you need a bunch of people with basic education and with some skills, some vocational skills. We did not have that, and since we did not have that, the manufacturing sector, or at least the labor intensive manufacturing sector, failed in India after 91. See, let's understand this with another example. In China, since everybody has a basic education, and they are provided with skills, so nobody starves. Even a guy can make some toy or make an idol of Ganesha, and he can be a small entrepreneur. Everybody can have a job, right? Because they have been provided with right skills. In India, on the other hand, we are people who are who have BAs and MAs, but they don't have any skills. So they don't get any jobs. And the sectors which are leading India's growth story have been sectors which do not create jobs, right? So that is why any government comes, it is the same problem, because it is even in last 4 years, our growth is led by the services sector. Even in the services sector, the growth is led by those three sectors which don't create jobs. So first reason why we face jobless growth is because of the wrong policies or the wrong focus we kind of followed since our independence. Second reason why we have jobless growth is thanks to the labor laws. So when you talk of labor laws, as you know that labor laws was strengthened by Indira Gandhi, number of draconian acts like Industrial Disputes Act, Factories Act, and all these, where if you are, an organization with some people, and if you want to fire the people, you cannot fire them without taking the permission of the government. It makes hiring and firing very difficult. Plus, you have to provide them in all the kind of facilities. It made labor expensive in India. And if you talk of international trade, India is a labor intensive country, right? So labor should be cheap in India. According to economic theory, labor should be cheap in India. But because of this labor laws, because of this rigid labor laws, it has made hiring and firing difficult, because it has made labor expensive in India. And that is why the capitalists or the industrialists, they responded it by following a capital intensive production. So even though India has excess of labor, but to avoid these labor laws, to avoid these rigid labor laws, the Indian capitalists, they went for the capital intensive mode of production. And that is why the labor intensive MSME sector could not develop in India, because the capitalists believe that thanks to labor laws, it's very difficult for me to hire and fire them. It's difficult to pay them so high salary. So let's use more capital and let's use less labor. And that is why we fail to create enough jobs. Third reason why we failed to create enough jobs was slow infrastructure development. So infrastructure, as you know, is known for creating because it has a lot of forward and backward linkages. So it is known to create a lot of jobs. But because the infrastructure development in India was slow, it also failed to create enough jobs. Fourth reason why, or the other reasons why there was jobless growth in India, is because we had this reservation policy in India. I'm not talking about the job reservation. I'm talking about the there is a reservation policy in small and medium enterprises, that number of industries, small and medium industries, only people with limited capital, only they can run those industries. So therefore, it prohibited or it prevented investment of people who had large capital, who could have made a big thing. They were prohibited from entering these products, and that is why the companies which worked in these products, they were inefficient because they were of small scale, and being small scale, they faced adverse economies of scale, and because of adverse economies of scale, they could not compete with the rest of the world. And that is why we have a situation where the Ganesha idols are imported from China. I mean, a country with 80% Hindus have not been able to create Ganesha idols, and it's being imported from a country where there is hardly any Hinduism, right? So, third reason was the reservation policy. Fourth reason was that the tax policy, the subsidies, the incentives which the government provided to the industries, they were linked to only the amount invested. They were not linked to the job created. So government used to give them subsidies, or it used to give tax benefits. So government used to say, okay, if you invest 100 crores, we'll give you the tax to benefit of this. If you invest 100 crores in Jharkhand, we will give you some subsidy. But that was all linked to the amount they invested. What the government should have done was that government should have told them that if you would have created 5,000 jobs, we would give you tax benefits. If you would have created 10,000 jobs, we would give you some subsidies. So it should have been that. Fourth reason or fifth reason why we did not have was again lack of skills. And the last reason was there was no focused policy. There was no focused policy on MSME sector. And the last reason why we did not, or we failed to create enough job, was because of inverted duty structure. Now what is this? We will explain. So in case of India, we have our trade policy really sucks, to be really honest, because what we do is that the raw material required for producing good, so our industries require a lot of raw materials from abroad. The raw material is taxed heavily, which means that the custom duty which that importer has to pay is very high, right? And the finished good which we import from outside, the custom duty we pay is very, very low. So what happens is that because of expensive raw materials which we abroad from, or which we import from abroad, our manufacturing industry or our manufacturers, they lose the competitive ability because their product will become expensive. Since the raw material which is imported from outside is it's taxed heavily, the custom duty he has to pay is very high. It means it will increase the cost of its production, and since its cost of production will increase, it will lose its competitive ability to the rest of the world. The products of rest of the world will become cheaper to that person because they don't have to face this inverted duty structure, and that is why it prohibits or it prevents the growth of Indian manufacturers. And since we know that it is the manufacturing sector which can create mass jobs, that is the reason we don't create, or we have this phenomena of jobless growth in India. While the finished good, the duty they have to pay for import of finished good is very low, which means these imports displace our local goods. It again prohibits them from growing, because suppose a good is imported from USA, or let's take the example of China. If Ganesh idol, or if the Chinese light is allowed in India without paying any duty, then surely it will displace the Indian Diwali light because it is cheaper. And the problem is that suppose if there is some raw material, some metal or mineral which is required for manufacturing light, that is imported at a very high duty. which means if Indian manufacturer wants to import raw material for its production, he will have to pay a very high amount of custom duty, and that will make his goods expensive. And since it will make his goods expensive, he will not be able to compete with Chinese made light. And since he will not be able to compete with Chinese made light, he will not grow. And since he will not grow, he will not create enough jobs. If you have any doubt on any of the points, you can always ping me up. I am always ready to respond to. And if the doubt is very, very big, you can call me between 9 to 10 in the evening. Because there are some doubts which cannot be typed on, Telegram. Next, come to the important question. How can we reverse the phenomenon of jobless growth? See, this is also linked to your mains topic. If you there's the in GS paper 3 is this topic called employment. This is linked to that. So first of all, Niti Aayog action agenda, which it published few weeks back, it recommended three things which India should follow. So it said that India should first of all, which is very, very necessary, is reform labor laws. Which means there should be some flexibility which should be given in hiring and firing. Second is it identified some labor intensive sectors like apparel, electronics, food processing, gems and jewelries, financial services, tourism, where the government should focus because all of them are job intensive sectors. So second thing is it recommended was to focus on job intensive sectors. And third thing it recommended was that we should, focus on creating coastal economic zones, just like China's special economic zone, because coastal economic zone will create opportunities for a lot of jobs in the coastal areas. This is what the Niti Aayog recommended. Let's take some more steps, some more things which we should do. Fourth thing we should do is that we should reverse or we should change our trade policy. And what should we do? Well, we should, remove the inverted duty structure that we have right now, which I have just explained. The raw material should be allowed to enter India without paying zero custom duty, and in case of finished good, we should impose some custom duty to give protection to our local manufacturers. We did that in automobile. In automobile sector, there was no inverted duty, and that is the reason why our automobile sector showed such boost after liberalization. Before liberalization, we had just what we had Ambassador and we had Maruti. After 91, we have so many cars, so many Mahindras, you have Tatas, these kind of companies who are coming, and they have been able to face competition from the foreign manufacturers like Ford, Mitsubishi, and Honda and all. So we should change our trade policy. Fifth thing we should do is that we should focus on cluster development. So see, what do we mean by cluster development? It means that suppose there are leather industries, right? Usually, we have different reasons, and in reasons these industries are concentration. So what government should do is that government should create special parks. Like we have special parks for IT, we should have special parks for labor intensive activities like leather, like cotton, etc., like gems. So how will this benefit? This will benefit because in cluster there will be common infrastructure. So there will be common sewage system, there will be common treatment system. Because see, most of the industries in this sector, they are small scale industries. They don't have enough money to build, sewage, proper sewage system or proper affluent treatment system. They don't have enough money, right? Plus, they don't have enough money for doing or for spending on marketing. They don't have enough money to spend on R&D. So when there will be cluster which will be developed, all of these small companies can pool up their resources, and by pooling up their resources, they can create common sewage system, they can create common affluent treatment system, they can create common marketing, network. So all these things can reduce the cost of these industries. And secondly, many of these leather industry, they have been closed because they don't have proper, affluent treatment system. Since they don't have proper affluent treatment system, they are closed by the Supreme Court order or by the NGT order. So we therefore need to promote these cluster development in labor intensive sectors. Next, we should focus is on aligning urban development with manufacturing clusters. So in cities where we have Amrit and smart cities, we should have proper alignment, or Ministry of Urban Development and the Ministry of MSME should have proper alignment that infrastructure is developed in those areas where there are MSME industries. Next, we should focus on public investment in health, education, police, and judiciary. All of these four sectors, they have a lot of potential to create new jobs. Plus, it will benefit India's workforce. It will make India's workforce more efficient, and when they will have proper skills, they are more likely to get good jobs. So we should increase, because there are so many posts which are vacant in police, in judiciary, in education too. There's so much vacancy of high school teachers or primary school teachers. If we increase the if we create more government schools, or we create more public hospitals, it will create more jobs. So this ends this topic, which is the jobless growth in India. Let's move to the next topic, which is Central proposes HECI to replace UGC. So as we know, see right now, what is the current scenario? We have UGC, or University Grants Commission, which is endowed with two activities. First is that it ensures that all the colleges which is under him, or all the universities, they maintain proper academic standards. So for those institutes which do not maintain proper sound or solid academic standards, what UGC does is that it withdraws its recognition. Second thing which UGC do is that it funds the educational institutions, and that is also based on how well they are performing, how well the standard is, based on the criteria. UGC funds the educational institution. This is the two functions of UGC. Now, what is the problem with UGC? See, UGC has become outdated. First of all, it has failed to maintain quality. So you can see that there's mushrooming of so many mediocre. I mean, if you are in NCR, you must know that if you travel from Delhi to Meerut, there are 200 engineering colleges in between, and most of them are substandards, and they all have, I mean, they are creating engineers with zero knowledge. They have no knowledge. They have no skills. They have no knowledge. They just have a degree of BTech, and all of them are recognized, unfortunately, by UGC. The first, I mean, failure of UGC is that it has failed to maintain quality. Second reason is that UGC has not been autonomous. So there have been continuous interference of Ministry of HRD in UGC. If you remember, there was an incident a few years back when Yogendra Yadav was shifted out of UGC when he launched or when he joined the Anna movement against the UPA government. So, you know, it is the government, it is the Ministry of HRD which takes the shot, and usually the people who are appointed in UGC are those people who may or may not have very high academic credentials, but one thing is sure, that they are very close to the establishment. Third reason is that since it had power to fund the education institution, UGC was known for corruption. There have been incidences where the members of UGC was involved in irregularities. So that is these were the failures why the government was thinking of replacing UGC. So now government has brought a draft bill, and the draft bill says that UGC as a body will be replaced by a new body which is called as Higher Education Commission of India. What will HECI do? HECI will have the first function, which is that it is given the responsibility to maintain academic standards in, or what you call as uniform academic standards in all universities and colleges of India. This function it will do with some additional powers. While the second function, which is the financing function, that has been withdrawn from it. So HECI will only focus on ensuring that each education institute in India, or each higher education institute in India, maintains highest standards of academic quality and standards. That is the main job of HECI, and it has been given power for that. So HECI has been given power of shutting or closing down those institutes which fail to maintain academic or high academic standards. So how is it different from UGC? So UGC did not have this power. What UGC can do, if the institute fails to maintain academic standards, UGC can only withdraw its recognition. So UGC would say that I don't recognize this institute, but that institute can still run. The institute can still run. UGC has no powers to shut down that institute. UGC could not have said that X engineering college, you are not maintaining academic standards, now you cannot offer the courses anymore. You have to shut down. UGC could not say that. HECI can say that. HECI can tell that, see, you are not maintaining academic standards, so you will have to shut down. Now you cannot offer the engineering or the MBA or any degree which you are offering. This is the main difference between the powers of HECI and the powers of UGC. Second thing which HECI is different, and HECI will be a regulator for all the bodies except medical and AICT to begin with. Except that, HECI will be the regulator of all the higher education courses in India. So, first thing we will discuss is the significance of HECI, and then we will discuss the issues. So when we talk of significance, we have discussed that the first significance is that it has power to close down erring institutions, so those institutions who do not maintain higher standards. Second thing is that UGC or this HECI has been denied the power, or what you call as financial power, where it can fund the institutes. And this is good because UGC had become, it was there were incidences that it has rampant corruption. So at least with government withdrawing the funding powers with HECI, there will be no such kind of problem with HECI. Third thing which is significant is that it gives more autonomy to the higher institute. So in this bill there is a provision that you have to, or the institutes of higher education, they have to self-certify their academic standards. Which means they will have to certify that, see, we are maintaining academic standard. There will be no regular inspections like it used to be done during the UGC era. And these inspections were they were very, they were not very good, because inspection meant that UGC officials used to come, and then these VCs and all, and they used to bribe them. And then they used to give a good report that they are maintaining all academic standards and everything. So in HECI, and this led to what we call as Inspector Raj. This is Inspector Raj, which we are known for. In HECI, there is a provision of self-certification where institutes of higher education will self-certify that they are maintaining proper standards. And if there will be some falsification, if they self-certify they are maintaining, and if there is some surprise inspection, and if this inspection found that it's not like that, there is a strong provision of punitive action against those institutions. Next we have is issues in HECI. What are the challenges or the issues? Why are academics, or why are the academic Jamaat not very happy with HECI? First is that there is structure, there are some loopholes in the structure of HECI. So according to the structure, there will be a chairman and a vice chairman, and chairman and vice chairman will be selected by a search committee, which will be headed by Secretary, Ministry of Higher Education. And that secretary will also be a member of HECI. He will also be a very, very key policy maker. Now, there is one doubt is that, since he is a member of the search committee, he will appoint only those people to the post of chairman and vice chairman who would remain, or who would promise to remain subservient to the secretary. because they would always feel indebted that it is this secretary which has hired me, so therefore he is my actual boss. And the real objective is that Heiki should remain autonomous from the Ministry of Higher Education. But when you give power to secretary to search for them, then definitely there will be a issue of conflict of power, right? There will be a problem that where the secretary controls these chairman and vice chairman. Second criticism of Heiki is that it is against the federal structure. So one provision of the bill is that even the state government, even the universities which are established by the State Act, if they fail to maintain academic standards, UGC can close them down. And this is what the states are, they are not happy with, because states believe that since it's established by our act, UGC or Heiki, which is a central government body, has no role to play in interfering with the state universities, right? So therefore they call that it is a anti-federal body. Next criticism of this is that in Heiki, OCI can become its chairman. So the bill says that even an overseas citizen of India can become the chairman of Heiki. Now this, according to many experts, believe that there could be a possibility where there is a person who has never lived in India, who is born and brought up in abroad, who has no idea about the education system of India. He can become the chairman of the Heiki, and when he will be chairman of the Heiki, his policies would also be away from the ground realities, because he hardly has any idea about the grassroots, right? So this is also one criticism of the Heiki. So what is the way forward? I mean, what is the middle ground which we should suggest? If an answer comes in the exam, what will you do? Would you outrightly reject Heiki and say, no, this is a foolish body and we should, have UGC? No, you will have to take a middle ground again. In these kind of questions, you will have to take a middle ground. So we'll discuss the way forward. So we can start with, if there is a conclusion to the answer, we can start with this, that Heiki bill can uplift Indian higher education, but it requires some correctment before enforcement. So we need to have some changes, some reforms in the draft bill so that it can play a major role in uplifting the India's higher education. And what are the reforms which are needed? So first of all, there should be a clear statement in the bill which says that once higher education institutions have been cleared for operation, quality standards will be maintained, or it will be enforced through accreditation. And not micromanagement. So it should be explicitly there in the bill that once higher education has been allowed to function, the role of Heiki will be only to give accreditation after the end of the year. It should not interfere in day-to-day functioning of the educational institutions. Also, the bill should lay out specific guidelines how Heiki will give accreditation. Because this is again one of the biggest criticism of UGC. The UGC used to take money, and based on the money it used to give accreditation A+. MIT was given A. This is the biggest joke of this word, that MIT is given A, and everybody knows why. So there should be a clear-cut procedure guideline how you give accreditation to a institute. Second thing which should be changed is that in longer run, AICTE, the medical thing, and the National Council for Teachers Education, they should be merged with Heiki, because if these will remain, then there is no purpose of Heiki, because one big purpose of Heiki is that there were multiplicity of regulators in the old regime. So there should be these, in long run, they should also be merged with HECI. Third thing which should be done is that HRD minister should also complement this step with two reforms. First reform is that there should be a separate body which should be established, and it should be autonomous body which should be established to give funds to the higher education, because now HECI cannot give funds, right? So prima facie right now it will be the duty of Ministry of HRD to give funds, but this is not right, because we need an autonomous body for both maintaining academic standard and allocating funds based on proper criteria. So there should be another body, another autonomous body which should be established to give funds. And secondly, HRD ministry should create a national research foundation. This is again required to promote research in India, which is somehow missing in this older regime. So this ends the second issue of the week. Let's move to the third issue, which is GSP, or Generalized System of Preferences. So why this was in news? Because US has said recently that US will review the GSP which it gives to imports from India, Kazakhstan, and there's one more country, I think, yeah, Indonesia. So it just said that it will review the GSP. It will review that whether these countries are eligible for GSP or not. What is GSP? We'll understand this first. So GSP is a program which is run by the USTR, or United States Trade Representatives. What it does is that it allows products from developing or least developing countries at zero duty to USA. So it means that any good from India or Indonesia or small countries, LDCs, can enter US without paying any duty or without paying any taxes. So it's kind of a preferential, and plus they will be given more preference. So second component of this program is that if suppose Germany and India both are exporting the same products to USA, USA would give first preference to India because it is a developing country, and it will give second preference to Germany because it's already a developed country. So around 129 countries are allowed under this program. Now the problem is that the dairy and the medical industry in US had gone to USTR or US trade representatives and said that, see, India has been not allowing market access to their goods. They are trying to proposing new trade barriers, and therefore you should review the preferential access which Indian exports get in the USA. And based on the recommendation of the US dairy and US medical lobby, the USTR has said, or US has said, that it will review whether Indian exports would be eligible under the GSP or not. So I mean, this GSP, it benefits both India and USA. Let's see how. So how does it benefit USA? See, under the GSP, most of the goods which India export to USA, they are raw materials, which means that these goods are in no competition with the US manufacturers because they don't have that thing. So ultimately, when these raw materials are imported in USA with zero duty, it makes the final goods cheaper. See, this raw material is finally used in some production or manufacturing process in USA, and ultimately, because the raw material is imported without paying zero duty, it will mean that the final good will be cheaper. And since the final good is cheaper, this final good which is manufactured in USA is exported to across the world. So ultimately, GSP is making the US goods competitive. It is boosting the US export across the world, and it is not even harming the local manufacturers, because we are importing raw material, we are not exporting anything which is hurting the local manufacturers, right? Second benefit which US get is that the consumers get the good for low price. Okay. First benefit is that it makes the US manufacturing goods cheaper, ultimately making them competitive, ultimately boosting exports. Second is that the US consumer, since the raw material is imported with zero duty and the price of final good or final product is low, it finally benefits the consumers because they get the good at lower price. How does it benefit India? Well, because most of the goods which India export, they are produced by MSME sector. So it gives boost to MSME sector. Indirectly, it gives boost, or it creates jobs in India, because these are known to be labor-intensive sectors. Secondly, it allows Indian manufacturing to enter the global value chain, or to integrate into global value chain. So these are the reasons why both of them are, both India and US benefits from the GSP, and therefore India and experts have said that US should not take any decision hastily, because ultimately if it will review or it will abolish India's access or India's eligibility to the program, it will hurt US more. It will hurt us, no doubt. We will lose our jobs, but it will also hurt the USA, because their industry, their manufacturing will hurt, their competitive ability will be hurt. Let's move to the next program or next issue, which is smart city. So there is this report by a think tank called Housing and Land Rights Network, which says that smart city mission is too project based and it lacks integrated vision. So smart cities, first of all, let us know or let's discuss what is smart city. These are pre-dated facts. The ministry which is implementing it is the Ministry of Urban Development. Under the smart city, 100 cities will be developed, and they would be nominated by the state government. And what would we mean by smart city? So 8 pillars of smart city program is smart governance, smart energy, smart environment, smart transportation, smart IT and communication, smart buildings, smart health hospitals, and smart education. So there are four approaches for a development of smart cities. First approach is retrofitting, which means that the old monument or the old building is renovated, it is made more stronger, it is made more beautiful. This is you don't kind of demolish the old building, you work on that old building and improve it. That is known as retrofitting. So under this, some part of the city will undergo retrofitting, and it says that if 500 acres of area is retrofitted, then it means that mission is accomplished. And the buildings which will be retrofitting, that will be selected by the local bodies in consultation with the citizens. Second strategy or second approach of development is redevelopment, in which old building or old areas will be demolished, and in place of that new building would be built or new infrastructure would be built, which will be more smart. So under this, if 50 acres of area is redeveloped in a city, it means that the mission is successful, and this area is selected by the urban local bodies in consultation with the citizens. Third approach is greenfield project. So greenfield project, as the name suggests, means that in that area there is no development and everything will be start from afresh, and there will be use of innovating planning, there will be use of smart solutions to develop that area. So under this, if 250 acres have been developed, it means that the mission is successful. And the fourth is pan city development program, in which whole city will be developed. This is the main approach of the smart city program. Now let's come to the recent issue, which is how this New Delhi based HRLN highlighted some issues in the smart city program. So the name of the think tank is Housing and Land Rights Network, and it identified certain issues with the smart city mission. First issue is gender. It says that in smart city plan there is no talk, there is no nowhere it is mentioned that the city would ensure that there is no discrimination with the woman, or it is gender friendly in its infrastructure. So therefore it says that there is it lacks a strong equality, or it lacks a strong gender equality or non-discrimination approach. Second thing it highlighted is that it will create smart enclaves within a what you call as a pathetic city. So as I've mentioned earlier, that if 50 acres is developed or 250 acres is developed, that area or that city would be considered that smart city has been successful in that city. Now what is 200 acres? What is 50 acres? Nothing. It would mean it would increase the inequality in the city. So you would have some areas which will be like Lutyens Delhi, like Chanakyapuri, and there will be some areas which will be like what you call as Dharavi. So it will increase the inequality within the city. It will have it will create an enclaves of prosperity with, almost all city being in very, very bad and pathetic shape. So what our mission should be to decrease the inequality in the city. At least the rich areas and the poor areas should have basic infrastructure, should have common infrastructure. But this will be opposite. Here you will have few areas which will look like foreign, which will look like West, and rest of them are in pathetic shape. Third is urban amenities. So the smart city, there is no adequate guideline, there is no adequate standards which has been made in the program itself for housing, water, sanitation, health, and others. I mean, there should be some guideline, there should be some standards that okay, this is the amount or this is the quality of water which should be there. This should be the quality of road which should be there in each smart city. This should be the quality of sanitation or health or environmental sustainability in that city. There is no standards which are developed. So this is again, I mean, how will you judge the success when you have no standards? You can only judge your success when you have some standards. But when you don't have any standards, then how will you judge the success? Next is that there is no human rights based approach. Yes, so next is that there is no human rights based approach. So there is hardly any guideline which says that there should be some human rights based indicator to monitor implementation of mission. So after smart city has been made, how many people from the low income group or the disadvantaged group have benefited? There is no approach or there is no philosophy in this program which measures that, right? Because ultimately smart city is for the poor, at least this is what the government claims. So there should be some a mechanism which ensures that okay, after the implementation of this program, so many low income groups have benefited. And lastly, there is hardly spending in this program so far. So the progress of this program is very, very haphazard. Only 8% of the total identified project under the mission have been completed in 3 years. So progress has been very, very haphazard. What is way forward? Well, what the experts are saying that in a country like India, there should be no one size fits approach. So each city has its own local problems. Some cities have a very good quality of water treatment, but they don't have good hospitals. Some have good hospitals, but they don't have good educational institutions. Some have everything, but they don't have good law and order. So each city should have its own strategy, and they should be given autonomy. That okay, you have this problem, so you focus on these problems. There should be no one size fit approach with regard to the smart city mission. Let's move to the next topic, which is, does India need a financial policy committee? This was actually given in live mint, and that's why I took it. And see, financial policy committee is, I mean, the existence of this kind of committee was made in UK. In UK, financial policy committee was introduced, and it has 12 members. It was introduced after the 2008 subprime crisis, or whatever as banking crisis. So the people or the government in UK thought that we need a separate committee which should oversee the financial and banking sector in the UK. That's why they created a separate committee. And in this FPC, it has members from the UK Central Bank, You have members who are bankers, who are academics, who are from the private sectors. So you have, people from wide variety of disciplines. And what does it do? It first of all, it meets 4 times a year, and it releases financial stability report, which says that what are the risk and the threat and everything. And second thing it does is that it creates, or it sets the counter cyclical capital buffer rate. Now what is this? Before you understand this, I think you should be aware with 2 more concepts, which is what is cyclical and what is counter cyclical fiscal policy. So when you must have been reading this in articles and newspapers, cyclical. And so in capitalism, in free market, as you know, that there is always what you call as business cycle. So there is this business cycle in which there is always bust and boom. So sometimes you will have recession when the demand falls, when the demand is very low, which we faced in 2008. Sometimes there's boom when there's excess demand, when the prices are high, which we faced from 2004 to 8, boom years. So when there is boom, the fiscal policy also functions in that regard. So suppose there is a boom and the fiscal policy increases the boom further by reducing the taxes or by increasing the government expenditure, because both of them will do what? It will create more demand, because tax will be reduced, which means people have more money to spend, which will mean that they will have more demand. And we already have a boom, which means that there is excess demand situation when demand is more than the supply. So when the fiscal policy increases the already prevailing phenomena, then we can call that kind of fiscal policy as cyclical fiscal policy. Right? Second kind of fiscal policy is counter cyclical fiscal policy, and this is the opposite of cyclical fiscal policy, which means in this case, because of excess demand, we have the price increases, so the common man is hurt. So the fiscal policy in this regard, what they do is that they try to decrease the boom situation. They try to decrease or mop up the excess demand, because excess demand is leading to what? It is leading to inflation problem. And if you remember, between 2004 to 8, India witnessed very, very high inflation. And because that was a situation of boom, which created excess demand. Right? So in this regard, the fiscal policy, what it will do, it will increase the tax, or it will reduce the government expenditure. And both of them will do the same thing. It will serve the same purpose. It will reduce the demand, because if there will be more tax, you have less demand, and when there will be reduced demand, it will reduce the inflation. Same will happen in recession. Same thing, if you can imply same thing here, same thing will happen there. Only thing will be that it will be opposite. So this is what we know as cyclical and counter cyclical fiscal policy. You must, in a lot of articles and a lot of banking news, this word is used. So now we come to the main topic which we're discussing: counter cyclical capital buffer rate. So this means, see, this means that whenever there is very, when there is very easy monetary policy, which means that the government is giving a lot of credit to the people. So what it will do, this committee will do, that it will increase the capital adequacy ratio. Why it will increase the capital adequacy ratio? Because since the bank is lending more, there is more chance that the money which the bank has lent, it does not get returned. There could be a situation of NPA. So therefore, it increases the buffer amount which the bank should keep in case the loan which it has given fails or it becomes NPA, right? So it increases the capital adequacy ratio, and this is known as counter expectation buffet policy or counter cyclical capital buffet rate, because it is counter cyclical. Because the motive of this decision is to counter the easy monetary policy. Right? Because when government or when this financial policy committee, when it will increase the capital adequacy ratio requirement, it will mean that the banks will have less money to lend. So ultimately, this policy is what? This is counter to the policy of the central bank, which wanted a easy monetary policy. Right? That is why it is known as counter cyclical. So, what is in case of India? I mean, what is the procedure in case of India? In case of India, we don't have any specialized body which deals with the financial and banking sector. We have RBI, which is the, Superman, which is like it does everything. It manages the monetary policy, it manages the policies related to financial and banking sector, plus it manages the debt of the government. So therefore, in India, we don't have a specialized body which will oversee the financial and banking sector. And as you know that in India, we have a situation where the NPAs are rising, where you have so many financial scams, and RBI have so much work that it cannot properly focus on financial sector itself. So therefore, experts are saying that we should also have a specialized financial policy committee, just like the MPC or the monetary policy committee. And in that FPC, RBI governor should also be the member. Plus, it should also have experts, it should have private sector individual, it should have academic people, and this FPC will take a holistic view of the challenges and the dangers of the financial or banking sector in India. Next issue which we will deal with is the issue of it's again an OPID, which is known as for nutritional security on undernourishment. This actually came in Hindu. So, recently or last year, the UN State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World Report, it's released by the UN, State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World Report, and it has observed some following fact. it has said that even though the number of hungry people have, or the number of malnourished people in the world has reduced since 2000, but it said that still 815 million people are facing chronic food deprivation. And this number has increased since 2014, when 775 million were facing chronic food security deprivation. And it says that even in India, which has made a lot of progress in last few decades, so we have witnessed decrease in child undernutrition, child stunting. We have launched NFSA program, we have launched midday meal program, we have Annapurna Ann Yojana, and we have a number of state specific schemes. Still, it says that India is vulnerable. We still have 38% population, or 38% of India's children under the age of 5. They are, stunted, and at national level, 53% of the women are anemic, or they have anemia. So situation is not good. I mean, though we have improved, but it is still a long way to go before we can relax. And this topic is related to the topic hunger and malnutrition in GS1 and GS2. So again, this open-ended with that. But I then thought that I should provide some way forward which India should take to improve the food security, or to improve the nutrition situation in India. So what are the steps we could take to enhance food security in India? First is that we should focus on unused, or we should focus on underused crops. So what are these underused crops? They are pulses, millets, maize, vegetables. All of them are very, very, good for nutrition. They are good for nutrition, but they don't require a lot of water or a lot of irrigation. So those areas which are arid areas, in those areas we can produce these kind of crops, and we could provide them to our population and to our children, and that will go a long way in providing food security to the people. Second area we can focus is on empowering women. See, this is very, very important. Understand this point. If we could provide the women with proper food and nutrition, if we can provide them with right information about nutrition, it will make next generation also, healthy. Because first of all, if the woman is healthy, she will have a healthy baby. And since because most of the reason why the child in India are stunted is because their mothers are also stunted, and because of that they are born very weak. So if the woman will be healthy, if the woman will consume nutritious food, then the child or the infant would also be healthy. And secondly, when the woman will be healthy, so it will provide a proper breastfeed to the baby for the initial months. And that will also make the baby stronger, and he will be less prone to diseases and stunting. And third thing is that if a woman is provided with right education about nutrition, and as we know, we being a patriarchal society, it is generally the duty of the mothers to take care of the food needs of the young children. So the woman which is provided, which is guided with right education, he or she can then, what he or she can do, he or she can give right food to their children. She will give right food to their children. And when she will give right food to the children will be healthy. Third thing which we can do is biofortification, which I have explained, I think, in the first lecture itself, so I am not explaining kind of again. Fourthly, what we can do is that we can increase the emphasis on indirect interventions, which include access to safe water, sanitation and hygiene. See, as you know that many people in India are weak because they go for this open defecation and they are then stuck with diarrhea, and diarrhea kind of consumes them and they become stunted. Same goes with water. A lot of waterborne diseases which reduces the immunity power, and the child or the person is more prone to malnutrition. So we should also target these areas, and if we could improve here, it will have an indirect impact on nutrition. And lastly, we could ensure that food is not waste. We should have a proper delivery system. So these are the steps we should take, which can make India food secure. Next is the topic of ripples of reform in Dhaka. This is again a op-ed which was very, very important. That's why I thought that. Actually, I like, and actually most of the op-eds which are very important for UPSC are those op-eds which provide some solutions to the problem, which give some contemporary examples, because these examples you can quote in the exam and that strengthens your answer. You say that I will do this thing, but if you make this point by providing some example that we can follow the model of this city, like in the first lecture I talked about the Norway model. So if you could quote this kind of model in your answer, that will definitely increase the worth and the value of your answer. So the next issue is the op-ed which is known as Ripples of Reform in Dhaka. So Dhaka, as you know, is the capital of Bangladesh. It is one of the biggest cities in the world, which has a population of around 12.15 million people. And it had very, the condition of water was very bad, because just like Indians, they are our, estranged brothers. So they are just like us. They polluted the water. They threw everything possible in the water. They defecated in water. And that is why the quality of surface water in Dhaka was very, very bad. Ultimately, they had to rely on groundwater. Groundwater also they kind of over consumed, and the water table in Dhaka fell very, very, very low. And then they finally rose up, and they finally woke up with the sleep, and they thought that we should do something to change the situation. And they started to introduce the reforms which changed the condition, which changed the scenario of Dhaka. And now Dhaka has no problem of water scarcity. It has no problem of the quality of water being bad, because it has undertaken number of reforms in last few years. And what are these reforms, we will discuss. So idea of this op-ed is that the Indian cities should learn from Dhaka, and they should also introduce these kinds of reform in India. So what did Dhaka do? First thing it did was that in 2005 it said that it would give highest priority to the safe water, and it got loan from the Asian Development Bank, which said that we will support the Dhaka Water and Sewage Authority to carry out reforms in the water services sector, and therefore the reforms were introduced. First reform which they introduced was replacement of old pipes. So in Dhaka, because of leakages in the pipes, around 60% of the water was wasted. So after the pipes have been replaced, after the pipe have been replaced with new ones, this leakage problem was solved, and they adopted a very, very innovative method of what we call as trenchless technology. So trenchless is, suppose that when you go to any Indian city, you see a lot of trenches being in the cities, or what you call as gaddhas. Any city in India is not free from gaddhas. When a road is built, the municipalities create a gadda, and then that gadda is there for months. Nobody knows what is, and it creates a problem. Ultimately, that gadda is filled with kind of stagnant water, and it leads to malaria and dengue and other waterborne diseases. So what they did was that they introduced this trenchless technology, in which you don't require a trench. You can just put a hole in that pipe where the pipe is, and with the hole you can just do a repair of the pipe, and then after repairment you can just fill that hole. So you don't need trench, you just do a hole and then you repair the pipeline, and once the pipeline is repaired, you fill that trench. So the common people will not have any problem. So this is the kind of technology which they introduced. Third reform which they did was that they built a state-of-art training facility to organize regular training programs for their staff to use smart water technologies to sustain the efficient case. So third thing which they did was regular training of their staff. Fourth thing which they did was they increased, because see, in India the problem is that we go for free everything, free water and everything, and that is why the boats, the jal boats, they don't have money to they don't have money for maintenance, and that is why we have problem of leakages. So what they did was that every year there was tariff hike of 5%. This again is good because you need money for maintenance. Next thing which it did was that it did a complete computerization of entire database of 3 lakh connections. So there was computerization, and in the computer there was entire database of 3 lakh people which were there, and monthly bill issued, or the monthly bill was issued from that computerized database. So Dhaka had a very big problem that before 2005, a lot of people, they don't have connections, they were using illegal connections, and the government did not have data. So only 30 to 40% people were paying the bill, and when the government did not have, or when the board did not have revenue, it did not have money to spend on replacement of old pipes or maintenance of old pipes. So this thing was used to ensure that everybody who uses water should pay for it. Also, in each locality, a citizen grievance redressal center was established. This was established in each of the localities, so that if there is any problem, if there is any non-implementation, the grievance is resolved at the earliest. And the last innovative step which they did was that the slum residents, they provided water to also the slum residents. And the slum residents, what they did was that they organized themselves into community-based organizations, and these community-based organizations ensured that the bill is paid on time. So generally, it's not very safe for the person from water department to go to slums, because there have been instances even in India where they are beaten up for asking for bill. So what they did was they involved the local people from the slum, and they said, okay, we are giving you the responsibility, we will provide you the water, and your job is to ensure that the people pay the bill on time. So they did that. So this is what main thing, which they did, and that is how these things could be implemented in India to, improve the water system in India. So this news, I think you must have heard about it, that global poll, which is conducted by Thomson Reuters Foundation, says that India is the most dangerous country for women in the world, which is more humiliating for India, because we are also ranked below Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Not just Saudi Arabia, Pakistan also. This is again a kind of thing which, if India would have been ranked second and Pakistan would have been first, still people would have been happy, Indians would have been happy that we are at least better than Pakistan. But now that it's awarded below Pakistan ranking, it created some outrage against the poll among some sections of the nationalist Indian people, that how could you say this thing, how Indians, we consider women to be our mothers and sisters, and how could you say that they are unsafe in India? So the poll says that it had 6 indicators, it had 6 different categories, and India is ranked first in 3 of these categories, and these 3 categories are risk of sexual violence and harassment, the danger women face from cultural, tribal and traditional practices, and thirdly, the country where women are most in danger of human trafficking, including forced labor, sex slavery and domestic servitude. So this is, jokes apart, this is not something which should be proud of it, because this is a very famous poll, and this gives a very, very wrong image to the soft power of India. It also hurts the tourism industry. I remember I was traveling to Southeast Asia 2 years back, and there I met a number of female travelers, solo travelers in the hostels, and all of them said, and when I said that you should come to India also, and all of them, they said, no, it's not safe for a solo traveler, at least for a solo female traveler, to come to India. Southeast Asia is okay, Vietnam and Philippines and Cambodia, fine, we have no problem here. But in India, we have heard very, very wrong stories about, from the female travelers that have been to India. So this is something which, I took it very lightly at that time, but with the incidents which are happening, this is not something which we should be proud of. This is wrong. This is ultimately, it's wrong. We claim to be a very, very, a civilized and cultural society, and when we have these kinds of reports, this is not right. So, and main thing is that we have not learned anything. 5 years ago, there was Nirbhaya. We had, outrage, so much outrage. We thought that things will improve, but nothing happened after 5 years. Situation even worsened, because at least 5 years back, people were, hitting the streets against the rapists. Now we are saying, we are seeing a different position, where the ministers are hitting the streets in favor of the rapist, as we have seen in Kathua, as we have seen in Unnao. So we will have to improve the thing. This is something which is really, really concerning me as an individual, not as someone who is teaching someone as an individual, because it is hurting India's well-established big name in the world. We want to be superpower, but at the same time we have this kind of stats that really hurt India's image. What should be the steps we should make to make India safe? First thing we should do is we should create awareness and sensitization. Well, first of all, I mean, when most of the crimes in India is because of patriarchal mindset. See, what happens is that now that women are, they are doing very good in different fields. They are clearing IAS. They are becoming ministers. They are going to army. They are becoming doctors. They are becoming scientists. Everywhere they are doing, they're marking their mark. The men, on the other hand, they believe that it is their territory. They are born superior. So now, when they can't compete with women intellectually or academically or professionally, they go for the violence. They believe that because naturally men are, by nature, men has been made biologically more stronger. That is why they kind of, that is the area where they hurt. They say, okay, we can't compete with them in all these areas, but we are more stronger in terms of biologically, so we can dominate them by committing sexual crime or by beating them. So we have to create awareness and mindset that this is not how things should be done, right? Second thing which we should focus is on proper upbringing and schooling. So we should focus that, or we should, have a focus that when a male child is born, or when you have one male or one female, you should not have gender types, stereotypes that this is your toy, this is this toy, or you tell your son that you are a male, you should not feel the pain, or you are a male, you should not cry. You should not do this kind of stereotype, because these stereotypes affect him in the long run. He thinks that he is, being a male, he should have certain things which he should do. This is wrong. So we should, since childhood, it should be the duty of parents to ensure that both male and the female child are treated equally. Plus, there is no stereotyping done that you can do this thing, you can't do this thing, or there should be no gender segregation of seats in schools. All these should not be done. Third thing we require is that we should have more females in police force. This is again one thing, because the female police officers, they are more sensitive towards crime from women. Plus, a woman would face or would feel 100 times safer to register any complaint with the woman policeman than with the male policeman, because she feels that being a woman, she would understand my problem better, right? So this is also the third thing which it is required. Fourth thing is training for self-defense. So all girls should be given some few months of training on self-defense. They should also be given with this. There was this spray, which they can spread, and after spreading, they can run. So they should be provided with these kind of amenities which they can use during the difficult times. Plus, they should be given training in self-defense, which they can use when they see any kind of ill intention of any male towards them. Also, we should use technology. So we should use more CCTV. We should use more, CCTV cameras. We should have GPS. There should be GPS in the public transport. All the employees of the bus, they should have proper ID cards. All of them should be there so that we can see that, or we should act as a deterrent for crime against women. And lastly, we should have fast track courts. So any crime against women should be dealt strictly, and there should be a proper thing. 6 months the case will be done, and strictest punishment should be done, but I'm not in favor of this strict punishment, to be really honest, because strict punishment after the Nirbhaya case, we have so strict punishment now, but still the crime is not reducing. Ultimately, we will have to work in creating awareness in these first 2 points. These first 2 points, or these first 3-4 points, are very important. We should work on that, because that is the main thing which will act as a deterrent. For writing in the exam paper, you can write this point, that we should have more fast track courts and strict laws. You have to write that, no problem. You don't have options. But personally, I don't feel that has much impact. Let's move to the next issue, which is the Citizenship Amendment Bill. So this bill was also in heated debate because a lot of states like Assam, there is a big protest going on against the bill, even by the own ally of BJP. But before I explain the bill, I should tell you a small story, because without knowing that, you will not understand the gravity of this. I mean, why these people are protesting and everything. So, as you know, Assam was close to East Bengal, right? So in when there was, and Assam is famous for what? It is famous for its plantations, tea and everything. So in late 19th centuries and in early 20th centuries, a lot of workers were taken from East Bengal to work in the plantations in Assam. And they were taken by the British, they were taken by the Marwadis who were there. And ultimately it was a thing which was, they kind of continued to work. Being from East Bengal, most of them were Muslims. They were Bengali Muslims. Ultimately, their number increased in future. This kind of migration continued slowly. But then, after independence in 1947, the Assamese felt that, now we don't want more migrants, because if more migrants will come, we will become, the ethnic Assamese thought that we will become minority in our own state. So they said that, only the people who were registered in 1951 census, only they should be given citizenship or voting rights. Now things went fine till 1971. But in 1971, one sad thing happened, which was the Pakistan's massacre of Bengalis in East Pakistan. And this thing, I think you all must be aware about, how many 3 million Bengalis were killed, 300,000 were raped, and you have this bastard children, which are those women who were raped, who were born out of this rape. So you have this kind of population in Bangladesh. So when the Pakistanis started genocide in East Pakistan, a lot of these Bengalis migrated to Assam because it was very close, and mass migration emerged in Assam. Naturally, it created problems in Assam. In Assam, in late 1970s, a movement started which was known as ISU, or All Assam Student Union, which said that those Bengalis who migrated after 1971, now that the war is over, now that Bangladesh is a free country, they should go back to Bangladesh. They should leave Assam, because now the population has increased significantly and we are becoming minority in our own state. So a big movement started. Ultimately, it led to one of the greatest, or one of the unfortunate massacres or genocides in independent India. It was known as the Nelly massacre. Around 2100 Bengali Muslims were butchered by the Assamese. 2100. And after this massacre, this massacre was done because Indira Gandhi announced that 4 million Bengali Muslims would be given the voting rights. So in protest of that, so many were done. Then Indira Gandhi was assassinated. She was assassinated herself, and Rajiv Gandhi came to power. And Rajiv Gandhi signed what we call as Assam Accord with the AASU. This Assam Accord said that those who came after 24th March 1971, all of them will be returned back. They will be sent back to Bangladesh. Those who came between 1961 to 1971, they will be given citizenship right, but for 10 years they would not be given any voting rights. And those who are there in 1951 census, those Bengalis, they can continue to stay in Assam. There is no problem with them because their number is not very much. This was the main provision of Assam Accord. In return, the central government said, okay, we are doing this, now you join the mainstream. So this AASU transformed into AGP or Assam Gana Parishad, and it won elections in Assam, and Praful Kumar Mehta became the youngest Indian chief minister at the age of 32. So this is the whole story of the Assam thing. Now we come to the this bill, because without understanding this background, it is tough for you to understand what is happening now. So there is a bill introduced which is known as Citizenship Amendment Bill, and it has following provisions. Firstly, it seeks to amend 1955 Act to permit 6 members, or to permit members of 6 communities, Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Jain, Parsi and Christian, from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, eligible for citizenship if they have entered the country before December 14, 2014. So it seeks to amend 55 to ensure that, or to permit that 6 communities from 3 countries are eligible for citizenship if they migrated after or before December 14, 2014. Second provision of this act is that it liberalizes the citizenship criteria for these persecuted community from these 3 persecuted countries, because in the Citizenship Act it says that anybody who wants to acquire India's citizenship by naturalization must have resided in India for the last 12 months, and he should have stayed in India for at least 11 out of last 14 years. That is for the normal people. This bill says for these persecuted communities, this norm will be relaxed, and instead of 11 years, they would require only 6 years. If they have stayed in India for 6 years, they would be granted citizenship of India. So why was this bill brought? What is the need for this bill? So we know that the situation of minorities in our neighboring countries is not good. There have been incidences of frequent persecutions. But recently a Sikh was killed in Frontier, who was a very renowned Sikh in Pakistan. So they have been persecuted and they have no other place to go, at least the Hindus and the Sikhs, because we being the original motherland of Hindus, where else can they go? So we being, it's like Israel, being the mother country of Jews, the Indian government claims that we are the mother country of Hindus. Therefore, every persecuted Hindu can come to India and can find refuge in India. Also, these refugees who have came to India, they are facing a difficulty in getting long-term visa or citizenship. And thirdly, the existing citizenship law does not allow it takes 11 years is a big time, so it is easier for them to give 6 years than to give 11 years. So why there is protest in Assam? There is protest because they believe that this bill would mean that the Bengali Hindus who migrated after 71, they will also be given citizenship. And if they will be given citizenship, the Bengali population would increase significantly in Assam, and the ethnic Assamese would lose its majority. That is why the local population in Assam is very, very unhappy with this bill, because they believe this bill is a violation of the Assam Accord. And that is now what we will come to the issue part, that what is the issue, why there is so much issue with the bill. First is that it would violate the Assam Accord. Because Assam Accord clearly said that those who came to Assam after 71 would be sent back irrespective of their religion. Whether they're Hindu, they are Muslim, they are Christians, those who have came after 71 will be sent back. Now this bill violates that, because they are giving refuge to the Hindus who have come, even recently they have come, they are giving citizenship to them. Second thing is that it violates the Article 14 and Article 15. Well, in India being a secular country, you cannot discriminate on the basis of religion. What about the Ahmadiyas? The Ahmadiyas are the sect of Islam which is considered as non-Muslims in Pakistan, and they believe that the last prophet is not the Prophet Muhammad but their own leader, which was Ghulam Ahmad, something like that. He is the last prophet. They are considered as heretics, and there were incidences of them being killed. And they are even more persecuted than Hindus and Sikhs and the Christians. So what about the Ahmadiyas? What about the Shias who have been persecuted? Why not Muslims? So India being a secular country, you cannot discriminate on the basis of religion. You have to, if you want to give refuge, you should give to all. If you don't want, you don't give to anyone. Third reason is that it will also jeopardize India's international relations with our neighbors. Ultimately, when you are taking refugees from these countries, it means that you are tagging them that they don't treat their minorities well. They are persecutors of the minorities. And this would jeopardize, this would at least alienate Bangladesh and Afghanistan, who are our friends. They would think that you being a friend, why are you doing that? And suppose tomorrow Bangladesh starts the same thing. It says that the Muslims who are not feeling good in India, who are not feeling safe in India, who are being lynched, we allow them to come to Bangladesh. Then it would be a slap on our face. So ultimately, right now the situation in India is really bad. We are not treating our minorities well, and we are lecturing the other countries to treat their minorities well. So this could go wrong against us. And fourthly, what about Sri Lankan Tamils and the Rohingyas, who are very, very persecuted? So this ends this topic. Now we move to the next topic, which is India votes against draft decision on chemical weapons use at OPCW meet. Let's move to the next topic, which is India votes against the draft decisions on chemical weapons use at the OPCW meet. OPCW is Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. So this is an intergovernmental organization which entered into force in 1987. It has 197 members, and its headquarters is at Hague. And as the name suggests, its purpose is to completely eliminate the use and the stock of chemical weapons across the world. So main purpose of this organization is to ensure that no country in the world has any stock of chemical weapons, plus they don't use it against anyone. So it has a power to say or to investigate whether the chemical weapon has been used or not. Like in Syria, it went and said that it has been used. So what it does is that if any country, it has two jobs. First job is to ensure that each country dismantles that. So it reviews or it verifies the claims of any country which says that we don't have any chemical weapons. And second thing it does is that it verifies on site. So if it has a doubt that they have a stockpile of chemical weapons in that part of the country, it goes and it inspects that on site, that whether there is any stock of chemical weapon or there is not, or there is not any stock of chemical weapons. So there was this meeting or this conference of OPCW in Britain, and this was called by US and UK and West, and it was in the process of global ban against the chemical weapons. And in this conference, UK, which was supported by US, proposed an amendment in the powers of OPCW, and it wanted to empower the OPCW to identify the organization or the government responsible for chemical attacks. So right now, the power of OPCW is only to investigate and only to, claim that whether the chemical weapon have been used or not. That is the mandate of the OPCW. In this amendment, the proposal was that OPCW would not just say that whether this weapon is used or not, it will also publish, or it will call out the names of any organization / government which it believes, or it has full proof, has used chemical weapons. So India opposed this draft proposal. We voted against them, and not just India, Syria, China, Russia, all of them voted against this proposal, because we believed, first of all, that it will give unlimited, unchecked power to the Director General of OPCW. And we have never been very happy with OPCW, because we believe that in Iraq there was no chemical weapons, and they destroyed the country with a botched up investigation. So we also believe in Syria it was not used. So therefore we believe that already they have been misused by OPCW, and when you give them this unchecked power, this will be utilized against those countries which are not in good books, or those dictators which are not in good books of the US and the West. Therefore, first of all we opposed it for this reason. Second reason why we opposed it was because we believe that if we will oppose, or if we will vote with China will loosen its stand in NSG, because we believe that if we will because it was the China which was the main opposition body to this proposal, and we believe that by joining hands with China, we are giving a message to China that, see, we are willing to coordinate with you, we are willing to cooperate with you. Now in return, you should allow India's entry in NSG. So it is, one reason is to soften the stand of China with respect to India's entry to NSG. Third reason is that we believe that this kind of decision should have proper discussion, and it was hastily published and hastily it was implemented. So we wanted that there should be proper broad level discussion on this. Ultimately, India kind of voted it, but it did not have any impact, because the final outcome was that 82 countries, which exceeded the two-third majority, voted in favor of the proposal, and only 24 countries voted against it. So this proposal was passed, and now the OPCW has this power. So now it has been given this power. This ends the main issues of the week. Now let's focus on the prelims issues of the week. First issue is that India and Bangladesh have agreed to institute a coordinated patrol, or what we call as CORPAT. So India Bangladesh have said that both the navies of India and Bangladesh will institute a coordinated patrol, and the aim behind this agreement is to consolidate bilateral defense relations between India and Bangladesh, and to increase the cooperation between Indian and Bangladeshi Navy. So this is under this joint coordinated patrol, both the navies will share expertise with each other. Indian Navy will try to strengthen capacity building of Bangladeshi Navy. It will provide training of Bangladeshi Navy, and we will have annual exercises together. Next issue is the Surya Shakti Kisan Yojana. This Yojana is launched by the Gujarat government, and its main feature is to increase the income of the farmer and to provide him with electricity for irrigation purpose. So under this, 12,000 farmers who are electrified, who uses electricity for irrigation, what government would do is government would install solar powered panels in their field, and this will, what it will do, it will generate electricity, and the electricity which the farmer use or the electricity which the farmers require, he will use that. Rest of the electricity he will sell it to the government, and government will pay him the price for that. So if suppose there is 100 megawatt of electricity which is generated, and farmers require 40 megawatt for his irrigation purpose, so 60 megawatt he can sell it to the government, and government will pay him for that. So it will benefit him in two ways. First, he will get electricity for his irrigation, and second, he will earn some extra income. So if we talk of financing under this scheme, 60% of the funding will be provided by the government. Around 5% the farmer will have to bear, and rest 35% he will be provided with easy loan, which he will have to repay in 7-8 years. Let's move to the next topic, which is Udyam Sangam 2018. So this Udyam Sangam is technically, it was kind of a seminar which was kind of conducted to celebrate 2 years or second anniversary of the UN MSME Day. So there is a UN MSME Day which was launched in 2016. It was the second anniversary of that day. So on this occasion, he launched a portal which is known as MSME Sampark portal. This is launched by the President of India. So under this MSME Sampark portal, 5 lakh job seekers will connect with the job providers. I mean, those MSME industry people who require skilled labor, who require unskilled labor. So it's a kind of a digital platform which will connect the job seekers with those who want people or job providers. Next is conservation of PVTG of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So this is a seminar which is organized by National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, and under this seminar, the topic of the seminar was conservation of particularly vulnerable tribes of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the way forward. So before we come to the tribes of Andaman and Nicobar, we should first deal with what is known as PVTG, because this is a question which was also asked in this year prelims. So after independence, we provided the scheduled tribes with reservations in jobs and in education, in parliament. After few decades, it was it was examined that only few tribes who are more affluent, like Minas, like Gonds, like the Nicobaris, they have benefited more from this reservation. And there are some, and there is scheduled tribe is not a monolithic thing, because there are some tribes which are very, very integrated with the mainstream. There are some tribes which are which still are very isolated. They are backward. They are they don't have their own language. They are very few in population, and they don't have any written script. So all these tribes which are not very, very integrated in mainstream, who still are very isolated, we are very backward, they were categorized as PVTG, or particularly vulnerable tribal groups. And the criteria for that is that there should be 3 criteria. First is they should be dependent on hunting and gathering. Second is they should have a very, very low literacy rate. And third is they have a very, very low population growth. So based on these criteria, on the basis of they were commission report, this category was created. Now, who identifies that? It is identified by the state government, but ultimately it is approved by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. In 2008, there is also a scheme which is known as Development Scheme for PVTG, and it's a 100% central sector scheme. So now let's come to the topic of Andaman and Nicobar. So in Andaman and Nicobar, as you know, there are different types of tribes. There are those tribes which have a Mongolite features, and there are second type of tribe which have Negroid or Negro type of features. But they look like Africans. So when we talk of Mongolite tribes, they are basically two main tribes, which are the Nicobarese and the Shompen. When you talk of Negroid type of tribes, there are three mains. First is Jarava, which is very, very famous. Second is Onges. These are the main two tribes of the Negroid type. Now, a Nicobarese type tribe is the most mainstream. It is now there are even 1 or 2 IS officers from this tribe. They are mostly integrated into the mainstream. Rest of the tribes are not integrated. They are very, very isolated. They still don't understand our language. They live decades. It's like they are still living in a Stone Age way. So they are very, very kind of, backward, and there are some problems. These tribes are facing exploitation from outsiders. There's a lot of tourism in that area, which kind of, hurts their isolated life. In tsunamis, when the tsunami came, a lot of them were died. So there is a need to protect them. So there have been some legislations with respect to that. There have been policy on Zarawa tribes in 2004. There is policy on Shompen in 2015. There is this Andaman and Nicobar Island Protection of Aboriginal Tribals regulation, which was amended in 2005 and 2012. So there have been number of laws, but they have not been implemented well. So this paper says that we should, try to bring new laws which should leave them alone. We should not, interfere with their lives. Next is Niti Aayog to release first Delta ranking. So there was this aspiration development program which was launched in March 2018, and this program is actually the main focus of this aspirational district program was that one size fit all approach should not be there, and therefore what it does, it selected few districts, those districts which are ranked very low in deprivation index under the SECC, those where the health and educational infrastructure and performance is very, very low in compared to rest of the India. So there were like 115 districts which were selected under the program, and there was no new scheme, no new funds under the scheme. Only focus of the scheme was that the already existing schemes should be implemented well. They should be implemented in letters and spirit, and based on that proper implementation, now Niti Aayog will release its Delta ranking, which will ensure, or which will measure how much progress has been done in these districts between March to May. March 2018 to May 2018, because based on that it will bring a competitive spirit among the districts. So those districts who will be ranked at the top they will motivate those districts who are at the bottom to perform better in the next ranking. And this is kind of a competitive federalism which we are talking in the last lecture. Next is that cabinet approves capital infusion in export credit guarantee corporation limited. So this export credit guarantee limited corporation, first of all we should deal with what is that. It is a company which is wholly owned by the government, and its main purpose, as the name suggests, is to provide export credit insurance to Indian exporters who are exporting their goods to abroad, which means that this company says that if suppose you export to X country, and if you are not paid for your export, if suppose that there is some civil war or there is some coup in that country, and because of that the second party has not been able to pay for your export, then this will come into picture and it will compensate the Indian exporter with the loss. So if it has a loss of 1 million, this export credit guarantee corporation would pay the Indian exporter that 1 million. Other job of this company is to provide information about the credit worthiness of the overseas buyer. It will tell him that, see, you are trading with him, but his track record is not good, so you should be a little careful. Other things which it tells you, it provides guidance in respect to export related activities. So all these things also it does. So recently the cabinet has said that it will infuse 2,000 crore rupees for strengthening this organization, and this infusion would mean that the premium which this charges would reduce, because now it will have more loss taking ability. So ultimately it will give a boost to India's export. One more benefit of this would be that it would incentivize Indian exporters to export to risky markets like countries of Africa, Latin America, where there is high chances of failure. It is because of this high chances of failure, Indian exporters are not interested in these countries. But now with extra capital infusion, now this organization would be in better position to ensure that, okay, even if you bear loss while exporting there, I am there to refund the loss for you. So this organization would act as a guarantee which will motivate the Indian exporters to invest in risky but emerging markets. Next is this year it is the 500th death anniversary of Saint Kabir, and when anything is 150, 500, it becomes important for the UPSC exam. So next is the issue of Kabir. So Kabir, as you know, is a 15th century poet who was a very rationalist of that kind. He was born in a Muslim family, but his guru was a Hindu, Ramanand, and he was known to be critique of both Hinduism and Islam. He wanted he wanted both these religions to be free of rituals. So he was against dogmas of Islam, the rituals where you have to keep Ramzan, Roza, Namaz, traveling to Hajj. Or he was also against the Hinduism, the pujas and everything, the kind of rituals, idol worships, the importance given to Brahmins, all things he was very against of, because he said that only way to achieve salvation is to do bhakti. You do the bhakti of the God. You don't need a middleman. You don't need any rituals. If you do bhakti, if you do good deeds, you will achieve salvation. That was the pure and pious message of the Kabir 500 years back. And so you should read more about him. He was against caste system. He was against idol worship. He was firm believer in the unity of gods. And the followers of Kabir are known as Kabir Panthis. Next is the Reunite mobile app. So this app is launched by Ministry of Commerce and Industry and Civil Aviation, and this app is developed by Kailash Satyarthi Foundation. And as the name suggests, the main purpose of the app is to track and trace missing and abandoned children in India. Next we have is Global Real Estate Transparency Index. So this index, as you know, index and reports have become very important for the exam now, and this index is released by Global. So this index ranked India as 35th among the world countries, and its rank improved from last year, because last year it was ranked 36th. So India's rank has improved because and it is considered, India is considered as a semi-transparent zone. Its rank has improved because India has done some policy reforms. We have liberalized the FDI, we have ensured digitization of property records, and we have given industry status to the affordable housing, and that has led to India's ranking being improved. Next is the Solar Charkha mission. So this mission is launched by Ministry of MSME. It was launched by the President, and under this mission, around 50 clusters will be established in northeast and east of India, and each cluster will employ 400 to 2000 artisans. So what will they grow? They will do this khadi thing. So cluster related to khadi would be established in East and Northeast India, and each cluster will employ 400 to 2000 employees. Idea of this program is to create jobs in the rural areas. So it is expected that around 1 lakh jobs will be created under this scheme in next 2 years. And last topic for non-science, because science and environment Rakesh sir will take, so I'm only dealing with non-science issues. Last related issue is Manthan scheme. So this scheme is launched by Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and it will be implemented at the central level by TriFed. TriFed is a nodal agency which will ensure its implementation. And what it will do, the main purpose of the scheme is empowerment of tribals. So under the scheme, there will be, the tribals in India, they live near the forest, and the Forest Rights Act has given them the power that they can successfully they can exploit the minor forest produce. But the problem is that even though the Forest Rights Act have given this mandate, but because tribals don't have much information, they hardly have any skills related to this, how they can successfully utilize. They don't know the marketing channels. They're unaware of whom to sell. That is why they have not been able to successfully exploit the minor forest produce. So that is why, to ensure that these minor forest produce becomes asset for these tribals, or what you call as Manthan, this scheme has been launched. So under the scheme, there will be Manthan Vikas Kendra, which will be established in each tribal area, and this Manthan Kendra will provide skill upgradation, it will provide capacity building, it would provide marketing facilities to the tribals in terms of minor forest produce. And there is also procedure of SSGs. SSGs will be created, self-help group will be created, and self-help group will finally, the tribals will work in that, and this self-help group will be connected to these Manthan Vikas Kendra, and ultimately this will be connected to the banks. So main purpose of the scheme is empowerment of the tribals. So this ends this month's, this week's issues of the week, and we will meet next week. Thank you.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Civil State.